Hi, folks. Welcome to another of our broadcasts. In this broadcast, we're going to consider the question, did Jesus really rise from the dead? The doctrine of the resurrection, of course, is central to the Christian faith. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it's even more central than the death of Jesus Christ. That's what Paul indicates in 1 Corinthians 15. The fact of the matter is, if Jesus died but had not been raised from the dead, then our faith in him would be useless. Paul says that in 1 Corinthians 15, that if Christ did not rise from the dead, our faith is worthless, and we are of all men most miserable. There are many in the church, sadly, who deny the literal, physical, bodily resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. There are those, for example, who would argue that Jesus didn't actually die on the cross, that he only swooned. It's known as the swoon theory, and that when he was put into the tomb, the coolness of the tomb revived him, and he then rolled away the stone and he disappeared. That, of course, is nonsense. The Roman soldiers would have been professionals at crucifixion. They would not have brought Jesus down from the cross if he was not dead. And even if he had just swooned, after all that he went through, would he really have had the strength to roll away a huge stone? There are others who suggest that the disciples stole the body of Jesus. Of course, the question is, what about the guards? And even if they did steal the body of Jesus and took it away and reburied it somewhere else, are we supposed to then believe that they lived a huge lie for the rest of their lives, even being willing to die for what they knew to be a false teaching? I doubt it somehow. And then there are others who laughably suggest that they went to the wrong tomb. And that's why the tomb was empty. Well, if that was the case, of course, the Pharisees and the Jews only needed to take them to the right tomb and show them the body of Jesus. No, the Bible clearly teaches that Jesus rose from the dead, and there is indeed evidence of that. The fact that the tomb was empty, that cannot be denied. It would have been easy to show Jesus's body if it had been there. And the Bible clearly states that the religious leaders of the Jews came to the soldiers and they bribed them to say that the body was stolen. Even Jesus' enemies recognized that the body had gone. No one disputed that the tomb was empty. And then, as well as that, there's the numerous post-resurrection appearances, in other words, the appearances of Jesus to his disciples and many others after his resurrection. There were appearances to individuals and there were appearances to groups of people. At one stage, appearing to over 500 witnesses at once. And so he interacted with them, he talked with them, even eating with them on one occasion, offering Thomas to examine his resurrected body where the nails where imprints were in his hands and in his feet. Then there's the evidence, of course, of Mary Magdalene. Normally, whenever you're writing something, you do not put self-damaging material into it. One of the things about the Bible is that it tells things as it happened. And so, with Mary Magdalene, a woman's testimony back in the 1st century AD wouldn't have been accepted as evidence in a court of law. So anyone writing that Mary Magdalene was the first person to see Jesus and that she came back and testified to him being alive, they just wouldn't have put that in. They would have made the first witness of the resurrection a man. That is, if they had been making it up. The fact that Mary Magdalene is recorded as being the first witness shows that it was an accurate record of what took place. We also know that Jesus appeared to Peter. He appeared to him in John chapter 20, verses 3 to 9, John 21, 15 to 17, Mark 16 and verse 7, and then even Paul, writing in 1 Corinthians 15, tells us, and he appeared to Peter. Then there's the witnesses in Acts chapter 1, those of his disciples who were present whenever Jesus, having been raised from the dead and spent 40 days with them, ascended back into heaven. But probably one of the most clear evidences is of the dramatically changed lives of his disciples. In between the period of Jesus dying or being crucified and rising again, the disciples were terrified. They were hiding away in fear of the Jews. But once they saw the risen Lord, they were men who were transformed. They were changed, and they were not afraid to go out and to proclaim Jesus risen from the dead, even at the cost of their lives. This shows that they had actually met with the risen Jesus. And of course, looking at it from a theological point of view, Jesus had to rise from the dead. Why? In order to defeat death, in order to get the victory over death, and to guarantee our resurrection from the dead. He is the first fruits, and we will follow in his footsteps. So it's a glorious doctrine. Jesus crucified, yes, but Jesus risen, bodily raised by the power of God, showing us that this is what we can anticipate. Yes, we too will go down into the grave, and we will remain in the grave until Christ comes again. But when he comes, we will be resurrected. Our souls, which will be with Christ, will be reunited with our bodies. And in our new resurrected body, we will enjoy all the blessings of being with Christ forever in the new heavens and new earth that he creates. Just by way of recommendation, if you haven't read Lee Strobel's book, Case for the Resurrection, buy it and read it. Or, even better, you can actually watch it as a film or watch his own personal testimony on YouTube. Just Google Lee Strobel, The Resurrection of Christ, The Case for the Resurrection, and you'll get all that material to help you to better understand this great Christian teaching. Have a great day.